Welcome back. You're here with Goldberg. Today I'll be talking about how much you can actually control in your life versus what is baked into the crust. It was interesting to see the reaction of Rehab Room to this Dr. K character, and I don't like to generalize, but Dr. K reminds me a great deal of Vivek Ramaswamy. The appearance, the mannerisms, the mode of speaking, and the propensity for pushing outright scams without feeling guilty. In this case, he's a big advocate of the it's all in your head. As long as you have a positive mindset, you do the work, you can achieve your dreams. You're not held back by genetics or anything that's innate inherent. My take, based upon study, observation, and personal experience, life is more akin to if you've ever played Black Hawk Striker. You know, you have the helicopter and you can move it within a limited area, but the map is advancing. The enemies are coming. Or that other little gimmick that's being advertised on YouTube and Instagram incessantly, where you have the waves of opponents and you have to shoot them down or they're going to overrun you. So, yeah, you can steer the course slightly, but the path is largely already tunneled through. It's already set there. So you have to some degree, accept what's coming. And the flaw, in my opinion, with all this generic positivity, whether it's the manosphere or these blue pill types like Dr. K, many people, rather than focusing on calibrating their strengths, they pursue this fantastical caricature of what success should be, and they waste much of their time without necessarily attaining the results that they desire. I will use myself as the subject matter, the guinea pig for this segment, because if I get too broad, people's philosophies get rustled and they become offended, they have mental breakdowns. We want to avoid that. So I came from a lower middle class origin. I wouldn't call my parents dilettantes exactly, but they were more bohemian romantics. They didn't fixate on career maxing. They were kind of like live life in this happy-go-lucky, have your beliefs, have your enjoyments. There's some good and bad to that lifestyle. But because of that, as far as money is concerned, you carry it forward to an extent where you don't have quite the ability to pursue certain things. And some will go, yeah, but you can make money. It's true if you have a skill set at a very young age or you luck out. You dumped a ton of money into Bitcoin or Nvidia. Otherwise, most people end up having to grind to one extent or the other. And I go to college, I do pretty well, but I ramrodded through it because I was really paranoid about money. This is a big thing with lower middle class and especially working class communities online, debt aversion, which is understandable when it comes to the predatory lending. But some people, especially upper middle class, are better at weaponizing debt to their advantage. And the rich do this all the time. So it's not so simple. And at times people they break things down too much and they miss the point, which is that if you understand how a superstructure functions, you can benefit from it. But you have to have that knowledge. Otherwise, yeah, you will get left behind or just washed away. So towards the end of college, I said, oh, I could stay another semester, get more of the experience, take some more classes, double major, but then is it worth the price? Is grad school, can I justify $60,000, $70,000 worth of debt? So I didn't go that route. And one could say, well, you turned out all right. And it's true, but there were also some trade-offs, okay? And my point is that where you originated financially, unless you make a ton of money early on, it will condition some of the opportunities and experiences which you can pursue. And at times people are unrealistic about this. I graduate, go out into the working world, and recently I chose to do a bit of a contrast, my relative economic success versus my dad, late 90s, early 2000s. Using a very basic, I want to say it was bank rate, inflation calculator. The dollar has inflated 92% since 1998. Please correct me if I'm wrong with that figure. I'm doing better than he was in terms of overall income. However, I'm also working far more hours. He was maybe doing 40, 45 a week, not including commutes. I'm doing 60 to 62, not including commutes. And that's because I don't believe you can really get ahead in this country doing just 40 hours. Now, if you are maybe an actuary, you have a very specific skill set and you can bill high enough, you'd be fine. Or again, you're like super entrepreneurial at a young age, maybe you can, just be free and clear. But most people, you will have to do more than just the 40. You can do the 40 and have kind of an Aaron Clary existence where you don't really care too much about the future. But if you're trying to actually stack and build a more stable retirement, you're probably going to have to go beyond. And even that's not incorporating what I do for whatever I'm doing this channel. I'm working on books, doing research. That's pretty much strictly just the working part of it. He was doing that, by the way. He was already married with kids. I'm not married. I don't have any children. If I was, even doing pretty well economically like I am, I don't know if I could stop working 60 or going up to even 70 hours a week. I've told you before, most of the guys I know who are married with kids, they're busting their ass 70, 80 hours a week consistently because you just don't have enough money. I mean, yeah, it's a bit of a meme. Like you could say, use cloth diapers, don't buy the stuff from the store, make food from scratch, homeschool your kids, do road trips. But even other stuff, your house, maintaining it, utility bills, food, just buying food generally, it's not cheap, gas. Recently, I had to repair a car, and I've gotten a lot of use out of it. Used car lasts 2.5 years, but still, I went to one mechanic, it was new, and that was a mistake because they were kind of crooked. Then I had to go to another one to make sure the job was actually properly done. But it was 2.1K in a single month I spent just to get that car back on the road. And I make good money, but that's still like, damn, that's a lot of money you just pissed away simply to have a means of getting around. And it does add up. When I purchased a house, I got a better interest rate than he did in the 90s, going back to my dad, but he paid, I think, 20,000 less for a house, and he got a house that was actually newer. The only way I could buy a proper house, not like a townhouse or some little, freaking trailer, I had to go with something that's older, and of course I have to make some improvements. So all those things factor in. So you say, are you really doing better? And it's funny, when I was in college, there was this egghead Care Bear professor foaming at the mouth, proud Democrat, all these things. But he said, most of you are only going to do about the same or slightly better, if not worse, than your parents are financially, according to the data. And I see that more and more being true. Because if I were to keep going as I am, maybe move up some more, I'll do fine as a single guy. But as soon as you incorporate a couple of kids and a wife that's collecting your paycheck every month, yeah, I mean, who knows? Anything could happen. Another element which you may not be able to control would be your medical condition. So when I was 3 years old, I had eye surgery, and I still somewhat distinctly remember the doctor going, "Please, can you breathe in here?" This was the anesthesia, and I'm, as a kid, going, "What the hell is this?" And then I get knocked out. Then I was groggy waking up. I felt half nauseous. I was half blind. I had gotten a bunch of gifts because I was going to surgery, but there were all these kids in the house running around screaming, playing with the stuff I had received, so I wasn't too pleased about that. When I got out of college, I said I'm going to join the military. This is what I really wanted to do instead of going to school. So you go through the process. You're being honest. Yes, I had surgery. Well, we need documentation for that. I go to the hospital where this supposedly happened. It's been bought out. We have no record of you as a patient. Now, if you tell the military you have had a surgery and you don't know the specifics about it, you're almost automatically going to be DQ'd. There was another thing like astigmatism in your one eye. It's a little bit above the bureaucratic standard, even though I'm perfectly fine, 2020, no eye disease. And tried maybe a year and a half later, same problem. Tried getting LASIK, which maybe the technology has changed now because that was about a decade ago. But they said, yeah, you can't do LASIK because of the condition of your eyes. Some years down the line, I tried to do customs officer because I thought that would be more interesting than border patrol. Go through this very laborious process for months and then get medically DQ'd. And they said, you can appeal to the board of nurses or whatever. I go, what am I going to appeal with? I don't have any documentation of this surgery. I can tell you what the eye exam said, that they're perfectly in good health. There's no issues as far as being able to see, corrected. What I'm saying with that is that this is almost 30 years ago. It's something that continued to have an impact decades in the future. So when people are telling you it's all in your mind, it's all mindset, it's all about positivity, they miss this whole dynamic. And they don't want to accept it perhaps because it's not good for marketing. But the reality is, it wasn't a question of I was lazy, I didn't want to work out, I didn't want to study for the test, I didn't want to show up for the appointments. It was just the fact that I can't control it. And at least acknowledging that leads to a more constructive approach in life because you realize, okay, there are some things I will not be able to attain, no matter how much I want to believe in it or say, yeah, like a boomer slamming your fist down on the table and getting a job. There are certain doors which will not be open, and that's okay. It doesn't make you a bad person, but it's better to have that knowledge at a young age and be able to forge an appropriate path instead of wasting time on this. Well, as long as I just know I can do it, it's going to happen. Probably not. There are also social and romantic dynamics which have to be contended with. Many people will go, oh, it's about personality. And they're correct. Personality is largely heritable from your parents. This is why as you grow up, you will be described as being like one or the other parents, maybe in a good or bad way. It's also your appearance which will affect the development of your personality based upon how the world is reacting to you. And I always thought it was interesting. My brother, who probably could have been a Chad if he had really been gym maxing, but let's say he was a Chad light. He was less socially outgoing than myself during this time period, like, teen years. And yet he never had a shortage of women that were doing the work for him, being friendly, expressing interest. I had to force myself to become more outgoing, almost as a compensatory measure, because you end up realizing that just as you are out of the box is not going to cut it. So if you want to have a flicker of a chance, you have to put in that work. And that's where when these people claim that, we'll say, looks don't matter, genetics aren't important, but then you have to do all these things to make up for not having them, you say, oh, so it's kind of a subtle admission that that stuff is really crucial. And even if you do all that, you're still going to hit a certain limit based upon the fact that unless you do a bunch of plastic surgery, certain women will just not find you appealing. And that's just how it is. It doesn't mean that there's no options, but like I said, I had to make more of an effort because I wasn't just there from base. And this goes into another dynamic as far as your personality is concerned. If you have one of these manosphere type attitudes towards the world, red pill, just want to be individualistic, live my life, and enjoy myself, maybe have a girlfriend, you're not going to be successful. If you want a relationship in the Western world, you have to a certain degree, have these traits of, I don't even want to call it soy maxing, or you have to be able to do social diplomacy well with her friend circle in particular. Like the girl that I was dating previously, even though I predated most of these friends in her life, it became the question. Women will always dig in and say they have to vet or approve of whoever the girlfriend is with. And I was thinking about it at the time. I go, well, I'm very busy, but okay, that friend, she seems like a decent person. I'll hang out with her, no problem. The other one who was a feminist hoe, yeah, just not interested because I know how those women are. They're always trying to stir stuff up. I don't care to even be around them. Well, that is a mistake from the standpoint of making nice on the social plane, because then those women will start putting poison in the mind of the girl you're with. Oh, this person's bad. Oh, they've got malintent, whatever it might be. And you'll find yourself fashionably single pretty soon. So whether you like it or not, those skills are another aspect. If your personality doesn't jive well with kind of being a progressive male or just really cool all the time, you're going to lose out on those opportunities. You can still probably like pump and dump. You can do the casual thing, but you're not going to be able to get away with it with the vast majority of women you come across, because the friend circle will end up destroying your ability to just kind of forge ahead in life as you please. And so with all that being said, I would encourage people to recognize what you have just innately and how that's going to affect you going forward, because then you can build around it. There's too much of this discussion, as I mentioned earlier, of aspiring to this very specific ideal of what a man is supposed to be, what success is supposed to mean. And that can be counterproductive, because if you follow enough manosphere tenets, and maybe I'll do a separate video on this, like just going to work in trades, and you're not a guy who's already like above average, your life's going to suck in the Western world. At least if you can do well on dating apps because your appearance, not too bad. But if you're going to work in environments where there's practically no women and you're isolated from even, a place you can come across them, it's going to be worse for you in most cases. And you're going to find yourself back in the manosphere circles watching, Taylor the Fiend, Shannon Rice Lewis, whoever it might be, lapping up that content and claiming to be a high value man, but it was, at least as far as the romantic contingent is concerned, doesn't seem to be showing results. So yeah, how you come out of the box genetically has a lot to do with it. Your IQ, your appearance, your height, your propensity towards being able to stay in shape or getting fat, all these economic factors as well, all these will play into the mix, and you have some control. But this fantastical, as long as you just have a good attitude and you believe you can achieve anything, that's a little bit off the mark, and I think is actually self-destructive for many of the people who pursue it.